Welcome one, welcome all to my podcast focusing on your favourite sports and your favourite athletes on their Olympic journey. This is the road to Tokyo. This is 2020 Vision. Hello and welcome to 2020 Vision, episode 2. In this episode, I am speaking to an amazing athlete. This athlete is named Daniel Kirk, and Daniel is a discus thrower, a para-athlete, and all-around good guy. I hope that you enjoy the upcoming chat. I enjoyed it myself. He has a very good story to tell, very good advice to give. Here we have my chat with Daniel Kirk. Well, let's start with having a chat about you and firstly your love for sport. Can you tell us where it all began?
I certainly love right from the beginning, like with sport. Like it's all I sort of wanted to do. I wanted to work at it, wanted to play it. I think my first sort of proper introduction to organised sport was soccer when I was in under 8. And it just came off the back of playing, school sport and stuff at primary school and wanting to get involved with something. So,
much like every Australian boy, we all loved our sport growing up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So soccer took me through, most of the way through my teens and, made a few representative sides and different things like that. And then, sort of got introduced to football and sort of took up that pathway along with a little bit of athletics just on a sort of off-season kind of, schedule. And then, that's sort of, taken me a fair way. Like, it brought me over to South Australia where I studied my sports science degree and, at the conclusion of football when I had my career-ending injury, I ended up sort of finding my way into the para-sport. So it's been a common thread through my whole life.
So what was, so you played a bit of football down in Tasmania, did you say you're from?
Yeah, yep.
What was it like compared to playing here in SA and playing over there in Tassie? Is it a different brand of football?
Yeah, it is a little bit. We were playing, so before I left I was playing state football with the VFL side that we had, the Tasmanian Devils.
Yeah.
And I guess there was, the VFL was fairly strong at that stage and there was lots of sort of, big name players dropping back to play in the VFL that we then play against. And so we had a pretty strong side and a really good program and a lot different sort of grounds, I guess, to South Australia. Like down in Tassie, there's a lot more sort of, wet and cold weather throughout the winter. And so, when I moved over here, the grounds tended to hold up a fair bit better. And, differences, but lots of commonalities as well.
So you went from playing there in Tasmania, come over to SA and you get your spot with Glenelg. What was that like coming over and playing in the SA NFL?
Yeah, mate, it was actually a really good experience. Like coming from Tassie, we used to get some really good crowds for home games, but you go to Victoria and I guess those matches, weren't as popular as the AFL ones, so the crowds weren't quite as large or passionate. Whereas coming to SNFL, like every game, there's just diehard supporters there, like for both sides, and we had some pretty solid crowds along the way, and suburban grounds are nice. Like there's lots of them, around Adelaide, whereas Tassie with the state side, we really only played on probably 2 or 3 different grounds in the state. It was good. It was a good experience and something I'm grateful to have had.
And you were aiming for AFL selection, am I correct? You were up there with the names that could have been chosen?
Yeah, look, part of moving to SA was to chase that dream, and I did a pre-season with Port for the 2006 season and narrowly missed out, and I was invited back in for the 2009 pre-season after we'd sort of played in the grand final for Glenelg, and I wasn't registered for the draft at the time, so that one was fizzled out pretty quickly, unfortunately.
No, that's okay. So talk us through, was it 2005 that you had the injury, or correct me on that if I'm wrong?
No, so I moved to SA in 2005.
Oh, okay, yeah.
8 years in SNFL, and then 2012 was when I had the ankle injury. And
so talk us through that. Yeah. What happened exactly, as you can remember?
We were playing an evening game down at the Bay, and it was early on in the game, about a couple of minutes in, and sort of let out for a mark, jumped, got a little nudge in the back and landed awkwardly, and Compressed and sheared the ankle joint, I guess, and probably did a fair bit of damage in that moment, but wasn't really, I guess, I didn't understand, how bad it might have been.
Most importantly, was the free kick rewarded?
No, there was nothing there. No,
right, nothing.
I was just a player. Like I said, it was a pretty innocuous nudge. There wasn't much to it. It was a long process. It was a couple of pretty tough years and some mishandled surgery, and I had 6 surgeries all up, and the first surgeon had 3 goes at it in 20 weeks, and I really feel that probably, made things a lot worse, and probably left me with the permanent sort of disability that I now have.
So then you jump from all this happening to you, and you get the mindset of going para-athletics. Who put you in that direction?
There was just some people around SAFI, so the South Australian Sports Institute, where I was working at the time. So I was as a strength and conditioning coach, and over the coming months after the injury, I really pulled back from work. I wasn't really sort of physically able to do it, and my mind was definitely not there with just the sort of stress and the trying to adapt to how things were now operating. And but there was people around there that sort of encouraged me to keep an open mind about that para pathway and to get in touch with someone. And it was probably stubbornness that took me so long. Like, it took me 2 years before I reached out, and that was partly just due to the sort of determination to get back to able-bodied sport and to sort of problem solve my injury. But once I finally came to the realisation that it wasn't going to get any better, and it took me longer than probably some people, it was a pretty obvious pathway to follow. Like, getting in touch was the best thing I ever did. It was probably what I'd talk about being an upward trend in sort of that whole time in my life when things had sort of felt like they're on a long slippery slope, and they've just been fantastic. The empathy, the compassion, the support that they've offered in guiding me into a new pathway and a new sport, and is just wonderful. And the community of people that are involved, whether it be athletes, administrators, support people, coaches, they're just a wonderful community to be part of.
It definitely is, mate. So sadly, you didn't get that 2016 qualification for the Paralympics. That would have driven you a bit further there. You then go into 2017 World Championships. Do you mind talking me through that?
Yeah, sure. So I actually qualified for Rio, but missed out on selection, unfortunately, because it was just a couple of B qualifiers. And then, there was definitely a resolve to not have to go through that experience again, albeit like fairly early in my career. I sort of found it very sort of confronting, particularly sort of the anxiety of trying to throw for distance and hit a mark, and whether you'd be selected or not. So the London World Champs was there was a few of those things repeated. Like, it was still quite stressful going through any sort of qualification period, but luckily sort of got over the line late in the period. Like, it was literally qualified on the last day of qualification to get my second B qualifier, and was fortunate to be selected for that team. And I got to go to London and took my wife over with me, and we just lapped it up. It was just a wonderful experience and a highly professional event. There was huge support for para-athletics over in the UK, like 265,000 pre-sold tickets or something to the event. So it was a great celebration of sport, and had a really good experience and performed well, and just can't wait to do it all again.
And in the short time that you've been here, have you seen the growth and how much acceptance there is in the sport?
Yeah, look, it's one of those things that goes through a little bit of ebbs and flows depending on sort of, I guess, how proactive organisations are. So, there's some places things are really kind of, there's a lot of equity and fairness and those sort of things, and there's other things which unfortunately are really not where they should be and not where you'd hope they'd be. But it's a difficult one because the status quo kind of rules, and and if they're not sort of in a ruling mentality, then that perhaps in an apathetic mentality where it's like, well, I've got what I need, and you should probably just sort yourself out kind of thing. Like, I'd like to see a lot more done in that space. Like I think the UK do it beautifully, and they celebrate and recognise their para athletes in the same capacity as their able-bodied. So that it's just athletes. It's not. There is no difference, kind of thing. And the families and the people that came to support their athletes at the Para Athletic World Championships were, as passionate as what you see anywhere. So.
No, that's amazing, mate. So how is your travels going, like training-wise, to 2020? Because that's next.
Yeah, pretty good. It's a tough gig. Like, we've got one of the toughest classes, or toughest events for our class with the discus in the F44. So the 5 guys above me are all fully funded by their countries, which makes it a fair challenge when we're running on fumes back here in Australia. But look, the team I've got sort of together looks pretty promising. We've got people sort of pulling in the same direction, and just starting to settle a few things in that manner now, where I'm feeling more comfortable about that path through to World Champs in November this year, and then through to Tokyo next year. So, we had a couple of years since London where we really sort of chased some technical improvements and stumbled our way backwards and forwards, and it's been a little frustrating, but at the same time, like, I know how much better I'm moving, and it's just now sort of progressing that so that we can see the full benefit of it.
It's like learning how to tap the ball out of a ruck again, isn't it?
Oh, mate, it's infinitely harder than anything I do in football.
Yeah.
It's such a technical event. Like, I've played a lot of different sports. I mentioned soccer earlier, and football and beach volleyball, and I've generally picked most things up fairly quickly and done okay. And with discus, there was an element of that it only gets you so far, and getting from sort of good to elite is tricky. Like, every time you change something, because 1.5 rotation, something else changes ahead of it, and so you're constantly chasing your tail looking for improvement. So I don't think it's an event that you ever completely master, but it also keeps you highly engaged because of that. You're always looking for something to build on and to improve.
And do you dabble in shot put at all?
Look, I threw shot at World Champs. It's just a secondary event. Like, I really didn't train that much for it. Just wasn't a priority, given it's not a Paralympic event. I would have maybe considered doing the same thing this time, but it's not even being offered at Dubai at this World Champs, and it definitely won't be in Tokyo. So the other one for me, throwing event, is javelin that they offer, but it just doesn't couple up well with this for training for both. So I'd rather do one well than sort of compromise either of them by trying to do both.
Fair enough, Nat. Before you go, mate, I'd like to ask you one question. What sort of word of advice would you give people that are heading in your direction of not only the para-athlete aspects, but in sport in general, the motivation? How would you motivate someone to go that extra step? Because you struggled, as you said, a bit in trying to find your way. It took you a bit longer than you thought it would. What would you say to those that are trying?
Yeah, look, it wasn't motivation or anything for me. It was more just like, it was stubbornness. It was thinking that I was gonna fix my ankle, and obviously wasn't gonna happen. So for other people, it's more just about. For me, I think mindset is the biggest thing that you can build on in sport. Like, physical capacities and talent, all those sort of things. Like, there's great pathways for that. There's great support for it. But the mind sort of things, you've got to work out what works for you. And I think the best way to do that is to build a really good team around you. And I'm fortunate to have done that, and to have good people sort of that feed into what I'm doing and help me sort of recalibrate and balance things out and challenge me when I need to be challenged, or more often actually pull me back when I need to pull back. So, and that's not just your sports team, that's your home life as well. Like, whether it be your wife or your family or, your best mate or whatever it is, like, you need, someone and people around you to make sure that you get through all of those sort of ups and downs that are part of being an athlete, because it's not smooth sailing, and it looks all glossy on the social media and TV, but, it almost misrepresents it to younger athletes, and I think, we need that support in place for people like that when they're still finding their way and they haven't done it before.
Thank you very much for your words there, mate. They are kind. I was going to say kind words. I wish you the best of luck in your future endeavours, World Champs later this year, and then, of course, 2020 Olympics next year. Thank you for joining me.
No, terrific. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
And there we had my chat with Daniel Kirk, a very resilient man, a very inspirational man, and I thank him very much again for having that chat with me. Hopefully you enjoyed that. I love a person that can, be inspiring, bounce back, because that's what everyone needs to know that you can do. Hopefully it inspired you. So thank you very much for joining me on my chat with Daniel and my podcast, 2020 Vision. Please do share. Please do find me on Facebook, 2020 Vision Road to Tokyo. Yeah, I love doing what I do. And if you have any criticism, any words of improvement, please do let me know. I do want to make this as good as I can. Love yous. I'm going to leave yous. And we'll see you next week on 2020 Vision.